Which order?
Let's come back how we began. Yeah.
I don't want to be thought of as having left with a pessimistic. I'm not pessimistic. I think all kinds of political changes are underway and changes in perception, left and right, but particularly openings on the left. I do think, however, that a resurgence of the left in the United States has to face certain realities, and one of those is the decline of the old institutions of the left. And another one is, as Peter points out to, the corruption, if I can call it, of our government. It has been taken over the last 30 years for the reasons I tried to explain, to serve certain ends, and the mass of the people have understood that and are very angry towards the government, very suspicious about government. And as socialism inherited from the 19th and 20th century, which saw the government as the agent for progressive social change, therefore has a serious problem in this country because it can't function that way, and it has to come up with an alternative way of conceptualizing, one that sees revolutionary change more at the micro than at the macro level, more in terms of what can be done at the enterprise and in the community, and less in terms of what the state is going to be expected or demanded to do, because there won't be the support for it. And that's a very hard, practical reality that I think the left has to see. In terms of what's coming in for the mass of people, I think we have a classic problem. The mass of American working people cannot borrow any more money. They're currently spending about 14–15% of their disposable income just servicing their debt. Everybody who follows this pretty well understands they can't borrow much more. They probably have to unwind the debt, and therefore the prospects of a burst of consumption to get us back to where we were 2 or 3 years ago is an absurd objective, even though that is the objective stated by many government officials all the time. 3 or 4 years ago, we were on a train heading into a stone wall. And to have a policy program to get us back on that train, heading in the same direction under the same circumstances, is a bizarre notion. It takes the notion that of a short-term perspective by our political leaders and carries it to its absurd conclusion. All that we've done in the last 3 or 4 years is socialize debt. We've moved it off the balance sheets of private entities in large amounts and moved it onto the balance sheet of the states, particularly here in the United States. The problem remains, it's just whose debt it is that is the problem, and the consequences that flow from that. We haven't dealt with the problem of the overhang of debt. One illustration is our housing market. We have 55 million people with a mortgage in this country. Something on the order of 7.5 million of them are already behind. That will take years to unwind the catastrophe of these unpayable debts and these unsaleable homes and the consequences on the whole economy of what that means. We're looking at years of a constrained, constricted working class in this country, where the absence of a left to give a direction to that anger is resulting in everything you see, from Tea Parties to Sarah Palin to all the rest of it, because they're the only ones at this point that even begin to formulate an expression that can move this situation for the mass of people who are feeling pinched and see no future.
Let me make one comment just in connection with what.
You better get a microphone.
Oh, yeah. Let me make one comment just in connection with what Rick just said. This business about being disillusioned about the use of the state or government as an agent of change, and I think it's a good idea to try to be creative and think of new ways of doing things, but maybe I'm a little bit pessimistic in some respects when it comes to those things, and maybe I'm just marked by my having grown up under social democracy. But I think there are certain things that you cannot do at a decentralized level. I don't believe in socialism in one firm. I mean, you just can't do it. Like, if you want to have health reform, then you need, as far as I can see, you need to have a single payer system. You can't do it the other way. If you want to implement green technology, you should put $3 on a gallon of gas. And you should do a lot of stuff that you have to do at a central level that you cannot just leave to the individual firm and them sort of thinking about the externalities and trying to take them into account. So almost no matter which problem you look at, I think some of it has to go through some kind of of central collective decision making, and so we can invent a new state, or we can maybe it's, but it has to be centralized. It cannot just be at a very decentralized level. Then a direct question was this obsession with debt. Is that a problem for instance, green investment and all that? And I think that's a clear yes. That is a problem. It's a serious problem. And it's a problem here, it's a problem in Europe. Yeah, we talk about that a lot more. The skill bias, technical change, and what's the solution to that? There may be some skill bias, technical change that has taken place. I'm not convinced how important it is, and I think the evidence is in fact quite shaky. If there is, well then I guess the obvious solution to that problem is to try to train workers. But as I said, even mainstream people have expressed skepticism. We could look at the data. David Howell here, is he at New School?
Yeah.
Has done lots of wonderful work on this too. So I think it is an open question whether in fact it has been an important element. And I think one reason it's been given so much emphasis is that it's a natural explanation for what you observe, namely that both employment and wages have gone up for high-skilled workers, and that if you're trained in a standard neoclassical way, sort of brings the skill bias up as the obvious. It also ideologically may be a nice explanation. I don't know. Going to stop?
Yeah.
So